Hello everyone, and welcome to the semi-long-awaited episode 4 of how to make a Five Nights at Freddy's game in Scratch. Let's get into it. In this episode, we are going to be covering character movement, Foxy movement, jump scares, and a 0% power jump scare. First thing I'm going to want to make is our character movement. I'm going to call it AI for the sake of understanding, but you also need to understand that this is definitely not artificial intelligence. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a sprite and call it character AI. This is where we will do all of our programming. So there's something you need to understand about Five Nights at Freddy's movement. All of the characters are based off of timers and percentages. It might sound complicated, but I'm going to explain it to the best of my abilities. First thing I want to do is make sprites for each character depending on where they're supposed to be on the map at the time. So instead of making sprites for every single character, we're just going to make one sprite for all of the characters. So I'm going to start with Ugly, my main character. I'm going to call this sprite characters on camera. I'm going to start by calling this costume Ugly. Right off the bat, letting us know what character this is. Let's map out on our camera map where our characters are all going to go. I'm going to duplicate this just so I can visualize it. So, Ugly I'll mark as a red dot. Ugly starts on the stage. After that, he moves into the party room. Then I want him to move into the bathroom, then the hallway, then the corner, and then the office. Let's go over a character, Bean Chick. If you know from my original tutorial, you know who Bean Chick is. If you don't, Bean Chick is just another one of my characters. She starts on stage. She moves into the party room. She goes from the party room straight to the hallway, from the hallway to the corner, and from the corner and to the office. Then I'm going to be using Rope Man, and now we need to cover our Foxy character, who I actually don't have a character made up for it. So until I come up with a character idea, I'm just going to be marking this guy as white. I might need to add another camera, and I think I will. So let's act like over here is where our little, quote, Pirate Cove area is going to be. So he will start here, and now because he's a Foxy character, he doesn't move through the cameras. He has two cameras he can be on. That's this one, and that's the hallway. So boom, here's our character movement sheet. Do something like this just so you can kind of understand what's going on. Nobody's ever going to see this. This is just for us to look at. But now I understand where I want everyone going. Let me design my new camera spot for where Foxy's going to go, and I'll be right back. So, one thing to keep in mind as you're designing your Foxy area is that you need to keep in mind that he goes through a few stages. He goes through the closed curtain phase, the peeking out, the really peeking out, and then when he's standing outside, and then the empty. That's 5 different stages for your Foxy area. Just keep that in mind. And with our other cameras, our characters aren't visible in the actual stage. However, for your Foxy camera, you can feel free to make Foxy visible since he's the only one that can ever be there. I have designed all 5 of my, what I'm calling, coves in reference to Pirate Cove. So, you also will see the brand new character to join the roster. We have a Cove 1, which is our empty curtains. Cove 2, got our guy kind of peeking out a little bit. Cove 3, the door opens a little more. Cove 4, he's standing right outside, and this is our new character, Bucket Boy. And then Cove 5, where he is gone, ergo running down your hallway. Fantastic. Just wanted to put that out there for when you're designing your private cove area. Do keep in mind that your Pirate Cove area will not be using the same just set camera area since there are 5 different iterations of it. We can't just have it set to a number. We'll have to choose specifically what number it's going to be based off of where our character is, which we will set up later. Back to our characters on camera sprite, we will need to design where exactly we're wanting our characters to go. So what I would recommend doing is coming to your camera screens and finding, here's the stage. So let's actually take the stage, Control C to copy it, come into our characters, and now this is going to be Ugly Stage. So that's what I'm going to name it, Ugly Stage. Spend a lot of time on your artwork, make the characters look different and unique in each frame. Just for the speed up of this tutorial, I'm going to use this picture for him over and over again, as well as the same picture for all of my other characters. Just to make this tutorial come out faster, I want you to put in so much time into your work. I want you to be proud of what you make. Here's where Ugly is on the stage, and then you're just going to delete the stage and keep him where he is. Now that we have Ugly where we want him, now we have to figure out where he goes next, which is, my case, the party room. So let's come into the thing and grab the playroom. I'm gonna grab it, come into the character, make a new costume, call it Ugly Playroom, paste the playroom, grab Ugly, and put him where I think he would be in a playroom. Let's say I want him kind of chilling in the corner over here. He's kind of just hiding in the corner, hiding out, down in the corner right over there. And then, obviously, delete the playroom. And you're going to do this process for every single character. All right, here we see I have areas for every location for all 3 of my moving characters that are not a Foxy. So we have Ugly on stage, the playroom, bathroom, right hall, right corner. Bean Chick on stage, party room, right hall, right corner. I didn't name this one right. Rope Man on stage, playroom, left hall, and left corner. Fantastic. This is all you're going to need for all of your characters. Make sure you have one for every costume, and also make sure that there won't be overlapping problems. Like, my characters will never overlap on top of each other because they're in the same area if they can be on the same camera. Like, all of my stage guys, they're in a way where they won't overlap each other. You might just have some problems with that and some complications that you'll have to deal with unless you think about it right now. The way I'm going to make this system is based off of clones. I have 3 characters, therefore there will be 3 clones. The first thing we need to set up is the ability for them to appear on the cameras they're supposed to appear on. So right off the bat, let's grab our events and pull out a when I receive menu screen. Obviously, we are going to stop other scripts in this sprite, hide, and delete this clone. Since we're working with clones, you're going to want to make sure it deletes all the clones whenever it can. So upon the night being started, so when I receive night start, we need to create 3 clones. So repeat 3 times. Let's make a variable and call this I for this sprite only. This I is just going to stand for info so we can keep track of some things. We're going to set I to 0, and then in this repeat, change I by 1, and then create a clone. This will give this first clone the value of 1, which will be Ugly, and then I'll do Bean Chick, and then I'll do Rope Man. Ugly, Bean Chick, Rope Man. This will be in whatever order you want. To make it easier, you can make a comment saying 1 equals your character name, 2 equals character name, and 3 equals character name, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many that you have, just to make it easier for you to understand. So now that's going to generate 3 clones of our characters on camera for our 3 main characters that we will be seeing move around on camera that aren't our Foxy character. So right off the bat, when we start as a clone, we obviously want to hide because we will be starting as a clone the moment the night starts. It will be impossible to have the camera up by the time these clones are made, so putting a hide at the beginning will ensure that they won't be able to be shown when the night starts. Now is where I want to get into some costume renaming. I had you name them like this before so you could easily understand where they were supposed to be. Now I'm going to set the costumes to something specific so that we can call to it in the code. So inside of our cameras, I'm going to use Ugly as my example. Ugly starts on stage empty, which is camera 1, right? Camera 1 is my stage empty. 2 is my playroom. 3 is the bathroom. 4, 5, 6, 7. We can ignore 8 or whatever your Pirate Cove one is since it's not important to what we're doing, since no character can actually ever be on that screen. So 7 cameras or characters can move around. Ugly can move on 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. Let's start with 1. He can appear on the first camera. Inside of our characters on camera, we will want to name our Ugly stage. Since stage is our first camera, we're going to change this to maybe the first letter or the full name of your character, whatever you'd like. So, U1. Ugly, camera 1. Playroom would be Ugly 2 for me. This one would be Ugly 3. Right hall is Ugly 5. And right corner is Ugly 7. You're going to do this for the rest of your characters as well, mapping out where they go and renaming these sprites accordingly. There we go. I've gone through and named my characters accordingly based off of the cameras that they can go to so that we can easily call to where they need to be in each sprite. Let's begin coding Ugly. underneath this when I start as a clone, what we're going to do is obviously grab our repeat until, just for the sanctity of our forever loop. Inside of this repeat until, we will start coding ugly. All of our characters will be put inside of this one repeat until. However, I'm just going to start with ugly, and then from there we can move on to the others. Inside of here, we're going to grab an if else, go to operators, and pull out an equals. So we are going to say if I equals 1, which is ugly, this if statement will cover all of our ugly information. So for now, I'll pull it out so that we can really focus on it. What we need to do is make a new variable and call it ugly location. So right off the bat, when the night starts, which camera should ugly be at? Ugly location starts at camera 1. If he started in the party room, I'd set it to 2, so on and so forth, you understand. In this if statement, we need to figure out how to set the costume. So we're going to switch costume to, go to operators and grab a join. Since all of our ugly costumes start with a U, we're going to put U in this first half, and then we're going to put ugly location in the second half. So now we can already set the location based off of where he is, and the costume switching part is done. Now we have to get it to show up at the right time. So let's come to control and grab an if else, and inside this if else we're going to throw an and inside. We're going to throw an equal in the first half, and we're going to check if camera number is equal to ugly's location. If you're on the camera where ugly is located, he will show, but only if the camera state equals 2, which if you remember, camera 2 is up when the camera is up. If the camera is down, closing or opening, he won't be able to show. Hence, if all these statements are true, we show. If not, we hide. Now, if you remember, our camera actually pans back and forth, and we have to make our character do that as well. That's very easy to set up. Make sure your character on camera sprite is the same size as your camera screens. In my case, my screens is 100, so my characters on camera is 100. After you've done that, come to motion, grab a go to 0, 0, put it right here. The Y can stay 0, or you can set it to specifically whatever your camera screens is. My camera screens is 0, so my Y is going to stay 0, and my X is going to switch to the X position of the camera screens. So come to sensing and drag out this backdrop number of stage. You have to switch stage first since there is no X position of a stage since it's just the backdrop. So switch stage over to camera screens and you'll see it automatically switches to X position, and put that in the first half. That's all you need. Drag all this into your repeat until, and let's test and see if ugly shows up where he's supposed to be. Okay, everything's looking good. Let's open up the camera. And look at that, he's exactly where he's supposed to be. He follows the camera movement. When we close the camera, he goes away. When we open it back up, we can transfer through the camera so he hides when he's supposed to. So you might notice right here that there's a problem with our power, how it's showing up when even though it's not supposed to when the camera comes up. That's because when it updates the power, it has to re-show. Let's fix that real quick. Coming down to your power system, underneath update power, we're just going to put an if statement right around this one. The update power, not camera down, update power. You're going to check if not equals camera state not equals 2. If it doesn't equal up, then it can show. Back to our characters on camera, duplicate what we had. Now this will be bean chick, which is 2 for me. 2, and I'm switching this to B for bean chick. I'm making a new variable called bean chick location. And I'm switching all these ugly locations to bean chick locations. Fantastic. And then we're putting this right in the else of the last one. Duplicating it one more time. This one for rope man being 3. So R, make a new variable, rope man location, and set each of these, place this in the else, and then set this last if else to just an if. Don't forget then afterwards to set their locations to wherever they're supposed to be. Now we have to set up the character's movement. So if you remember, I had you make a character AI sprite. We're going to head over to that and set this up. So obviously when I receive menu screen, we are going to stop other scripts in this sprite and hide. The usual as we do for most sprites. Setting up a Five Nights at Freddy's movement system is a lot easier than you think it is. I'm going to use the system that Scott uses in the actual game, tweaked just a little bit. So just for the sake of being easy, I'm going to split each Animatronic AI into its own costume. So instead of calling this character AI, I'm going to just call this ugly AI. This will get a little bit more crowded depending on the more animatronics you have. However, splitting them up like this will make the whole system that much easier. For ugly AI, we obviously need to grab a when I receive and choose night start, because when the night starts, that's when he will begin deciding how he's going to move. Each character in FNAF waits about 4 to 5 seconds before deciding if they're going to move. So what we can do is grab a repeat until and put it inside of here. Now we need to grab a wait. Wait, pick random, 4 to 5 seconds. We can make this much more specific, which I would recommend you do, because then it'll stop the characters from moving at the same time. 4.01 to 5.01. This will give you a much more varied number than if you were to just do 2 whole numbers, which I definitely recommend you do. Every 4 to 5 seconds, the character is going to decide if they're allowed to move. How do we do that? It's actually pretty simple. So, for ugly, we need to decide what AI number our character is going to be on for each night. Think of the AI number like the custom night, 1 through 20. So, let's say for each night, night 1, we want ugly to be at 0. Ugly won't move on the first night. On night 2, he'll have 1. Very low chance. On night 3, he'll have, let's say, 3. On night 4, he will have maybe 6. Night 5, he will have 10. And night 6, he will have 12. This is his AI. Now, you can keep these numbers low, because the way that FNAF uses these numbers is percentage based, and I'll explain that in a second. What we're going to check is we're going to run an if statement, and we're going to say if, so we're going to grab a greater than symbol and put it inside. We're going to make a list, and we're going to call this list character AI level. I'm going to set this up in this backdrop, simply duplicate what we have here and put it underneath and change this to character AI levels. Character AI levels, we have 4 characters, so 4, and then this will act as our characters. Super simple, basic, easy to understand. On night start, what we need to do is, before we even do any of this, we need to set our character's AI level. If the night number is 1, replace item 1 of character AI levels, which again is ugly, to 0, because that's what we wanted him to be. If the night is 2, we set it to 1, and if the night is 6, we set it to 12. Put this repeat underneath all that. Sets the AI level of ugly now. After it waits the 5 seconds, we are going to check if item 1 of character AI levels, which is ugly's AI level, so if ugly's AI level is greater than, pick number 1 through 20. This is how it determines whether or not it's going to move. So if the number is less than the AI number, which would be it moving, now we actually need to set up him moving. He goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 7. Is grab an if and say if, grab an or, and grab an equals and put it inside. This equal is going to say if ugly's location equals 1 or equals 2, then what we can do is simply just change his location by 1. The reason I'm doing this is because it's incremental, right? He goes from 1 to 3. So if he's on 1, increase it by 1, he goes to 2. If it's on 2, increase it by 1, it goes to 3. Right? Pretty easy. So just change ugly's location by 1. If ugly's location is 3, change location by 2. So what you could do really is grab an or like this and say if it's 3 or 5, change it by 2. If his location is 7, then we need to set ugly's location to whatever we're going to choose our office to be. Since 8 is a camera, I'm going to say 9 is your office. So set ugly's location to 9. We will need room to set up his jump scare, so keep this else open for when we get to that. Let's duplicate ugly's AI and call it Bean Chick AI. And all we really need to do here is switch all of these 1s to 2s and then choose new AI levels. And then here, obviously all this is pretty much the same. Setting this 1 to a 2, changing all these ugly locations to Bean Chick locations. Let's go over these again. So Bean Chick moves 1, 2, 5, 7. If Bean Chick's location equals 1, change it by 1. If Bean Chick's location equals 2, change it by 3, because 2, 3, 4, 5. If Bean Chick's location is 5, change it by 2 to get her up to 7. And if Bean Chick's location equals 7, we are going to set Bean Chick's location to 9, which again would be the office. Then it's just up to switching all these values. Fantastic. Bean Chick is now movable. And then one more time, we're going to duplicate this and call it Rope Man AI. Switching all these values to 3. Grabbing some AI values. Again, in here, we just got to change up some stuff. We're going to choose 3. We're going to set these to Rope Man locations, and then we're going to map him out. So if he's on 1, he changes by 1 and goes to 2. If he's on 2, he changes by 2 to go to 4. He'll set his location to your office. You might have noticed something. There's no way to tell if the door is closed to keep them out. They just go into the office anyways. To that, I say you're right. Let's figure this out real quick. So realistically speaking, the characters don't just appear in your office after being in the corner, they come to your door, right? Exactly. So let's call 9 the left door, and let's call 10 the right door, and let's call 11 your office. For Bean Chick, instead of going to 9, she's gonna go to 10, which is the right door, meaning when you click on the light, you'll see her in the light. Ugly could work a little differently. You could have Ugly go straight to your office, which would be setting him to 11. So we could set him to come right into your office, so you really have to watch those cameras. He wants to come straight to your office, but before you let him do that, what we need to check is if your door is closed. We'll grab an if else and say if equals, so he comes from your right door. So we're gonna say if your right door state equals, we need to grab an or, put it in just like this. If right door state equals 2 for closed, or I think it was 4 for closing, then we need to have Ugly backpedal a little bit. Maybe instead of going to 7, he'll just go straight to 5. He'll go back to the hallway, so he has to move back forward. And then he's willing to go back to 7 again, and then try your door again. Now let's set up Bean Chick. Bean Chick is gonna go to your right door, which is 10. If you wanna make a comment for these to make it easier for you to understand, go ahead and do that. 10 is our right door, which that's totally fine. If you have 2 characters able to come to the same door that you can see them in, then you'll have to check to make sure someone's not there. Since Bean Chick is the only one that ever appears in the right door, I don't have to do that. Now let's make another movement opportunity for her and say that if she's at the door, which is 10, and you still don't have it closed, so let's set that up real quick. So I'm gonna come to Ugly's AI, and I'm actually just gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna take out what this says here, just so I can get this right door state, and I wanna put that right inside of Bean Chick, just so I don't have to remake it. Her state is 10, meaning she's at the door, and your right door state isn't closed or closing, then she will move right into your office, 11. Else, I want her to go back to, let's say, either the stage or the playroom. So I'll say pick random 1 to 2. So she'll now go either to the playroom or back to the stage if the door is closed. Fantastic, that's all you need. Then we're gonna grab this and we're gonna put it in Rope Man, and then Rope Man has his own little bit of code to mess with. 9 is our left door. So we're gonna say if he's at 9, he will have to check if the left door is closed or closing. If it is not closed, Rope Man will move right into your room, or else Rope Man will go to pick random 1 to 2. Now Rope Man can be blocked by the door as well. So now you might be thinking, well, Deku, how are we gonna see her at the door when you turn the lights on? That's really easy to set up. So Bean Chick comes to the right door. So let's literally come over to our right door. I have a special sprite for when Bean Chick is there. You'd obviously want to set up a separate costume for showing her. I'm just doing eyes for the sake of it being quick and easy. Let's change this up a little bit. Instead of just saying light on our right door state, if the right door state equals 5, what we should do is put in an if-else statement. Bean Chick's location equals 10. Which is her at the light. Then we should switch the costume to light on Bean Chick. Else, just switch the costume to light on. Fantastic. Very, very easy to set up. Let's head over to our left door now and do the same thing for Rope Man. Scroll all the way down. In this left door state, pop that if else in and say if Rope Man's location is 9 or our left door, I'm gonna switch the costume to light on Rope Man. Otherwise, switch the costume to just light on. This guy has a special sprite for Rope Man chilling there. And that's the system for setting up the movement of those characters. Before I go into Jumpscares, I do want to set up Foxy's movement. Let's hop into Foxy's AI. Let's make a new sprite and call it Foxy AI, or whatever your character is. In my case, that's Bucket Boy AI. Foxy's AI works a little bit differently, since instead of literally moving the character, he's moving on the same camera. So let's start as per usual. When I receive menu screen, stop other scripts in this sprite, and hide. We can come to, for example, ugly AI and throw it right inside of our Bucket Boy AI for some basic little tweaks. Like, for example, setting up the AI changes. Again, he works in almost the same system, but a little bit of tweaks. So, again, every 4 to 5 seconds, he'll pick the number randomly. So let's set this to the 4, since it's Foxy's AI. So instead of a location, it's a state. So I'm still gonna call it location. So Bucket Boy Location. Let's get rid of all of this and just say Bucket Boy Location. When looking at the camera states, he is there for 1, 2, 3, 4, right? He is on this camera for 4 states. The 5th state, he's gone, but for 4 states, he is there. We can say if Bucket Boy's location is 1, 2, or 3, then he'll be able to move up by 1. But we have to think about this, right? 1, 2, and 3 are already things. 11 is our office, so I'm going to say 12, 13, and 14. If it's 12, 13, or 14, then it's just going to change his location by 1. So now he's at 15, which means that he is at this state, right? 12, 13, 14, 15. He's at this state right now. So he's going to move to 16, which is this. On 15, or this camera, which means the next state would be when he's running down your hallway. What we need to do is, first of all, we have to change Bucket Boy's location by 1, and then we need to start up a bit of a timer. Because the way Foxy works is once he's disappeared from Pirate's Cove, he will attack either when you check the hallway to get that running animation, or if you never check the hallway, about 25 seconds, he will hit your door. It'll take about 25 seconds. But what we're going to do is reset the timer. Scratch has a built-in timer. You'll see it that just when you start your project, a timer just starts, right? You didn't make this timer, there's just a timer. That's just how Scratch works. And when you hit reset timer, it sets it back to 0. We're gonna use this built-in timer for Foxy. So it's going to change his location by 1, setting it to 16, and then reset the timer. It's going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to wait until, I'm going to put an or in here. One is timer is greater than 25. If you really wanted to make it a little bit more variables, you could do pick random, bigger than 25 to 26. If you really wanted to be specific, 25.01 to 26.01 to really make it variable and feel more random each playthrough, even just slightly. Right? You're going to wait until the timer is greater than whatever set number, 25 to 26, or until the camera number equals 6. So now this brings up another issue that we have. The camera number can be 6 and your camera down. If your camera is down and you're on camera 6 and Foxy happens to move, he'll just attack you without you even looking at him. So we also need to grab an and make sure that the camera is up. So camera state equals 2, which 2 on the camera state is up. So we're looking at camera 6. So after he moves into the hallway, it'll reset the timer and wait until 25 seconds has passed, or 26 seconds, or until you look at the camera. Great, we can go ahead and hide that timer now. Before we can check if your door is closed, we need to set a little bit of a timer. Because if we just say we set it to check your door right after you check the camera, that gives you no time to see the animation and react by turning down your camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a wait button in here. And inside of this wait block, we're going to say we're going to wait 3 to 4 seconds to close that door is plenty. You could be a little ungenerous and say 2 to 3 seconds. So I'll do that. We'll give you 2 to 3 seconds after this timer runs out, or the camera. Check the camera. You have 2 to 3 seconds to close the door. So after this wait, then we need to check if your door is closed. So we can actually just come to Rope Man and go ahead and grab this left door state and throw it in Bucket Man, since he's going to run down the same hall that Rope Man comes down. Left door state equals 2 or 4. Then we are going to set Bucket Boy's location to either 12 or 13. Else, we're going to set Bucket Boy's location to 11, which is your office. Inside of our cameras, in this camera up section, we need to check where we are. So let's set this up. Let's say if else camera number equals 8. You can grab what we have here and just put it in the else statement, because if it's not camera 8, then it'll just do what it's supposed to do. But if it's camera 8, what we need to do is check his state. So we will say if Bucket Boy location equals 12, which is where Bucket Boy should start. So if we haven't done that, we should do this right now. So in character on screen, which is where all the other ones is, let's set Bucket Boy's location to 12 right off the bat. That's just where he begins, which is Pirate Cove doors closed. Back inside of our camera screens, the camera is 8 and Bucket Boy's location is 12. We're going to switch the costume to Cove 1. If he's at 13, we switch it to Cove 2. 14, we switch it to Cove 3. 15, we switch it to Cove 4. 16, we switch it to Cove 5. Now, we also have to think of a few other things. What about when he's in the office and it's at 11? Let's say somehow you got the camera open at that point. We really just want to make sure. So just for some double checks, we'll say if his location is the hallway, 11 for in your office, and we'll leave this blank because we may add one again. Let's set up that animation of him running down the hallway. Inside of our camera screens, I'm going to duplicate the hall that he runs down, and I'm going to move this down underneath everything that we have. Underneath all of our cameras is where we're going to put this so that we don't mess up our camera order. We're going to call this left hall Bucket Boy. I'm going to say 1 because we're going to set up this little animation. So I'm just going to take him, and again, I want you to spend a lot of time on this animation, okay? I think that looks good. 6 costumes I have for this. Let's set up right here where this is going to be. So inside of this else statement, we are going to put another if else. We're going to move this temporarily. We are going to say, and if your camera number equals, for my case is 6, which is my left hall, if camera number equals 6, and Bucket Boy's location is 16, meaning he is in the hallway. You can grab what we had here before and put this in the final else statement. We will switch the costume to Bucket Boy 1, and then repeat 5 times, because that's how many frames you have left. There's 6 frames of my animation. We set it to the first frame, and we repeat the rest of the frames, which is 5. We will say 0.01 seconds, next costume, and then we're going to forcibly force your camera down. That's what we're going to do. We're going to force your camera down. So in our camera screens, we are then going to set camera state to 4 for closing. One thing I noticed is that camera 6 is actually my corner. 4 is my hallway. That's what I want to look at. I have a running sound that I have prepared. So inside of here, I'm going to import a new sound. Here it is. So I only need about 3 of these. So I'm going to choose these 3 steps, and I'm going to have it at the beginning of this animation start playing the sound. Another thing you may not know about Foxy is that when he gets to your door and pounds on it, you actually lose power. I don't know if you knew that. Let's set up how that's going to work. Inside of Bucket Boy's AI, way down here, after he sets this, before he does that, what we're going to do is actually upload a sound of him pounding on the doors. So I have one of these. I like it a lot. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. We are going to start the sound, Bucket Boy knocking. Depending on how many times he's banged on your door will change how much power he steals. For example, the first time he pounds on your door, you lose 1 power. Every time after that, you actually lose 6. So we're going to use our fancy background info. So let's change this to 2. And the second one is going to count how many times Foxy has knocked. So we'll do Bucket Boy pounds. Up here, we can do when I receive night start, inside of Bucket Boy AI, replace item 2 of background info with 0. Down here, we will say if equals item 2 of background info equals 0, meaning he's pounded 0 times, we will change our power by -1. Else, we will change the power by -6. Now he will take away the power that he needs to. Inside of Bucket Boy's AI, I have him setting the camera to 6, which is my corner, when in reality it should be 4, which is my hallway. There's another thing you probably know about Foxy, and that's when you're checking the cameras, he won't move. That's also very easy to set up, and let's set that up right now. Basically, whenever you have a camera on, Foxy goes into a state that we're going to call locking. So let's make a variable and call it Bucket Boy locked, with I'm going to say a question mark. So after we make Bucket Boy locked, we're going to come to Bucket Boy AI, and we are going to say that upon night start, so when I receive night start, repeat until, forever loop, camera state equals 2, which should be up, we will set Bucket Boy locked to 1, which we'll say means yes. Else, we'll set it to 0, which means no. Then, right in this repeat until, what we will say is we will grab an if statement and put it right underneath this wait until. Inside of this if statement, we are going to check if bucket boy locked equals 0, meaning he is not locked. If he is locked, he will never be able to move as long as our camera is up. And that's really all there is to it. There's your Foxy AI all set up. Congratulations, you've gotten through, hands down, probably the hardest part of this whole tutorial. And it wasn't even that hard, was it? Fantastic. Now let's set up the fun parts that everybody likes making, that being the jump scares. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you make one sprite, and we're going to call this sprite Jump Scares. In this one sprite, I want you to animate every single character jump scare there is. And once I'm done with that, I'll be back. Alright, I've very quickly and sloppily threw together all the jump scares for all of my characters. I highly suggest you spend way more time on yours. Don't just do what I did and put one picture and zoom it in or shake it back and forth. I highly suggest you try to learn and practice some animations to make your character's arms move or something like that. Something to really characterize your game, because let's be honest, the jump scares are probably what's going to be most memorable in your game, unless you're doing some crazy cool, never before seen mechanics. So spend a lot of time on your jump scares. Again, I'm doing it lazily just for the sake of this tutorial. So once you get all of your jump scares put in, what I want you to do is go to the first frame of each jump scare and name it. I'm naming it U for ugly, the first frame of Bean Chicks is B, the first frame of Rope Man's is R, and the first frame of Bucket Boys is BB, right? Just so it's easy to find while we're coding. Inside of these jump scares, before we even do anything, we actually have to set up the jump scare. Where would jump scares happen? Obviously, 1 is in the AI, when the characters are in your office. 11 is your office, right? That's pretty easy. Everybody knows that. So, when he's in your office, he's not going to jump scare you immediately. What happens is, when they're in your office, they actually wait a little bit before choosing to jump scare you. Duplicate what we have here and say if ugly's location equals 11, which is the office. Then, instead of changing a location at all, what we're going to do is we're going to make something new in our background info. And we're going to call 3 character jump scare. Character jump scare. Which character is jump scaring? So in Ugly's AI, the Ugly's location is 11 at the time of switching. We will need to first replace item 3 of background info with Ugly, which is, I'm going to call 1, right? 1. And then we need to broadcast a jump scare. So let's broadcast jump scare. Jump scare is going to stop a lot of things. So we're going to duplicate this menu screen and have this changed to jump scare. Since some things use clones, I'm also going to have you throw a delete this clone underneath. Let's go over each thing that needs to disappear when a jump scare happens. I want the fade to disappear. I want any static to disappear. I want the office to disappear. I want the darkness overlay to disappear. I want the door buttons. I want the doors. I want the light buttons. We want pretty much everything that you've been seeing inside the game to disappear for how we're doing these jump scares. Camera button, we need that to disappear. If we're in our camera, we need that stuff to disappear. We need our camera screens to disappear. We need our camera map to disappear. Each of our camera buttons, we need them to disappear. Everything to disappear. That's why I suggest in your jump scares putting a background on your jump scares. You see, if you looked at mine, my backgrounds have just a gray backdrop here. I suggest doing that. We want our power system to disappear, the numbers for the power system. We want the power usage to stop doing what it's doing. We want the background music to stop doing what it's doing. We want the characters on the screen to disappear. We want, our characters' AIs to stop working. Fantastic. Now everything will stop once jump scare is broadcasted. Let's grab this little bit of code that we made for Ugly and put it into Bean Chick, put it into Rope Man, and put it into Bucket Boy. Inside of Bean Chick, we will put the Ugly location here, set this to Bean Chick location, set that to 11, replace item 3 with 2, because 2 is my Bean Chick, and jump scare. Rope Man, same thing, put him down here, switch Ugly location to Rope Man location. Rope Man is characterized as 3, and jump scare. Inside of Bucket Boy, and say, if Bucket Boy's location is 11, Bucket Boy is characterized by 4, and jump scare. There we go. All the jump scares there can happen. Inside of jump scares, we can start doing stuff. When I receive menu screen, stop other scripts in this sprite, and hide. Very basic stuff. We've seen it several times before. Now we need to say, when I receive jump scare, we need to check who's jump scaring us. So we will grab a if statement and put an equal sign inside and say if item 3, because we're figuring out who's jump scaring us, of background info is 1, that's our ugly jump scare. So we will switch our costume to you, and let's count how many we have after. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then we will repeat 5 times next costume while waiting 0.01 seconds just to make that animation not as quick and snappy. Then we need to set up our game over screen. Pretty basic stuff. Then we will switch our backdrop to game over. After we hide our jump scare menu, we will have it wait however many seconds. I say 5 seconds on the game over screen is good. And then we will broadcast menu screen. That's all you need to do. Let's duplicate this and say if it's 2, which is Bean Chick, we'll say go to B. Let's count. After B, she has 1, 2, 3, 4. So repeating 4 times. Game over. Fantastic. Duplicate again. 3, which is my Rope Man. Let's put him in here. Rope Man. And Rope Man has 4 afterwards. And then finally we have 4, which is Bucket Boy. And Bucket Boy has 4. Great. Look at that. Now we need to make a jump scare noise. You can take someone's jump scare noise or you can record your own. I think recording a different jump scare noise for each character is really good. Then, above our ugly jump scare, once the jump scare begins, we can start the sound. Don't do play and tell. Do start sound, ugly jump scare. Start sound, Bean Chick jump scare. Start sound, Rope Man jump scare. And start sound, Bucket Boy jump scare. Fantastic. Throw it in there, and our jump scares are actually completely ready. So let's start by having this go to the front layer and showing. Awesome. We have one more thing left to set up in this episode, and that's running out of power. This is super easy to set up. So let's figure it out right now. What we're going to do is come to our power usage system sprite. And right above all of this that we set up here, what we're going to do is run an if statement. We're going to say, if our power is less than 1, meaning 0, then we will need to broadcast a power outage. Let's make a broadcast and call it power outage. And let's put this right above all of that stuff. Power outage is another very important thing. Just like jump scare, we're going to duplicate this and say power outage. What goes away during the power outage? We need a few things to happen. First of all, I will set our camera state to closing. Camera state, set it to 4 so it closes. So it doesn't just look like it disappears. We want it to close, right? Power outage, what needs to happen here is we need to make static disappear. We need to keep the office, obviously, keep the darkness overlay, keep the buttons, but we can get rid of like the mute button. Not that that would ever be seen. Camera screens from showing. Stop the camera maps from showing. Stop every single button from doing what the buttons are supposed to be doing. Stop the actual power system from working. Stop the AIs from doing anything. We don't want the AIs to do anything. We don't want the characters that move through the cameras to be doing anything. Fantastic. That's about it for that, for making the camera not to work. Now for some special effects. For example, in the darkness overlay, what I like to do is say, when I receive power outage, I want to set the ghost effect to maybe 30 so that it makes it appear darker. So what we can do here is switch our 50 in this repeat until, put it out of the repeat until, just so that when the power goes out, the darkness will look darker. It'll look like we ran out of power, right? Now, our doors are still going to work. Is inside of our left door button, let's make an if statement. We're going to check a greater than and say, if power is greater than 0, if it's bigger than 0, all this stuff is going to work. Obviously, if power is greater than 0, we want it to work. So underneath this, what we can do is put this power 0 right around this touching mouse pointer and mouse down. And we're going to put this inside of left light, right door, and right light. Again, put this around just the mouse pointer and mouse down area of the code of each of the buttons. Don't forget to save. Then if the doors are closed, we also have to force them open, right? So what we'll do is we'll say, when I receive power outage, you'll check if left door state equals closed. So 2. If left door state equals 2, Then we will set the left door state to 3. Opening, so that it forces the door open. Still plays that animation just how we want it to. If the left door state equals 5, light on, we're going to set the left door state to 1, just open, just so it shuts the light off. We're then going to take what we have here and put it into our right door button and do the same thing here, just switching out left door for right door states. Now, this camera button, we also need this to hide, so make sure that you've put in the power outage, stop the description of the sprite, hide, delete the clone, in the camera button too, so you can't reopen your camera up afterwards. So inside of our left door button, when we receive the power outage, we want to switch the costume to door off. Same thing with right door, switch costume to door off underneath power outage. Inside of this power system, underneath power outage, instead of doing this, what I'm going to choose instead to do is to set our power to 0 and then update our power, just so that instead of disappearing, it'll just say that our power is 0. This will prevent our power from looking like it's a negative number, which is exactly what we want. Now we have to set up a system for Ugly to come and jump scare you after your power has ran out. This is extraordinarily easy to set up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new sprite specifically for this. And I'm going to say power outage jump scare AI. Again, I'm using AI for the safety of understanding. This is most certainly not artificial intelligence. When I receive menu screen, we are going to stop other scripts in this sprite and hide. When I receive power outage, we'll need to do a few things. We will need to wait however long it takes for the character to come to the door. Let's make it random. Let's say it'll take 2 to, let's say, 20 seconds, because 20 seconds is the maximum in FNAF. 2 to 20 seconds. If you want to make it a little more specific, you can do 2.00, you can do 2.01 and 20.01 to make it even more specific and have those numbers just like that. It'll need to start playing that music. I'm going to make a quote music file. It's really just going to be him like laughing and giggling, so I'll be right back after that. All right, here's my disgusting file. Instead of music, I'm going to use this. Yeah, it's really gross. So we're going to wait 2 to 20 seconds for him to come to your door. And then it's going to start sound ugly noises. Then I'm going to wait another 2 to 20 seconds, where at that point I'm going to stop all sounds, and we are going to broadcast the jump scare by replacing item 3 of background info with 1, right? The jump scare, and the jump scare being 1, which is ugly. And then broadcasting jump scare. Fantastic. Now we have a power outage system. Inside of the power usage system, right above this repeat until, just throw in a set power to 100. That's all I have for this episode for you. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, then like it, and I'll see you all in the next tutorial. Bye!